Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto had deadly course and become a sword fighter. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Rick walks into a dark lab room with Dr. Edwin working. "Nice blood," said Rick as he walks in with a bottle of red wine in his hand. The doctor looks back at Rick. "No surprises," said Dr. Edwin. He turns his rolling chair looking at Rick. A tipsy Rick stares at the blonde-haired man. He smiles at the Dr. Edwin. "I came to thank you," said Rick. The doctor looks in shock, not accepting someone to actually thank him. "You did," said Dr. Edwin, giving Rick a questionable look. The tipsy or drunken Rick falls to the ground, hitting his back against a computer. "Why, you all right?" asked the concerned Dr. Edwin. The drunken Rick then smiles at the doctor. "You don't know what's it like," chuckled Rick. "You don't know what's it like out there. Might think you do, but you don't. We died out there. It's only a matter of time," said Rick, confusing the blonde doctor. "There's too many of those things, my boy. My wife Lori I never told them what I really thought. Never even needed," said Rick, taking a deep breath. He then starts to shed tears. "This can't be happening. I can't do it," said Rick, and starts muttering words. It'll be okay, said Dr. Edwin, trying to calm the drunken and stressful Rick. Next day, Rick comes in the kitchen, seeing his family in the group eating breakfast. "Morning," said Rick. Carl smiles at his dad. "Are you hungover, Mom said you be?" asked a grinning Carl. A hungover Rick smiles at his son. "Mom is right," said Rick, causing both son and mother to chuckle. "Well, it happens," muttered Lori with food in her mouth. T-Dog comes in with a tray of food. "Eggs. Powdered, but I do them good," said a grinning T-Dog. Glenn groans loudly, who's obviously of hungover. "Bet you can't tell, poached cheese helps the hangover," said T-Dog, giving the groaning Glenn some extra eggs. Lori then hands Rick some pills. "Where did all this come from?" asked Rick, looking at his wife. "Can you open it?" asked Rick. "Cabinet," said Lori. "Thank you," said a thankful Rick. "I thought you can use some and some others," said Lori, staring at Glenn, who looks like he has the world's biggest headache. "Nay, never, never. Let me drink again," groaned Glenn, who feels like hit his head with a slug hammer and a metal shovel. Hey, said Rick out loud, trying to get Shane's attention, who just walked in but ignored Rick for obvious reasons. T-Dog gets up, walking to the table where Shane is standing. "Hey, do you look bad as I do?" asked Rick. "A hungover Shane makes coffee worst," stated Shane as he slightly turns his head. "What the hell happened to you? Your neck?" asked T-Dog as he stares at the scratch marks on his neck made by Lori. Shane then sits at the table. "Must have done it in my sleep," lied Shane. Rick stares at Shane. "Never seen you do that before," stated Rick. Shane sips some of his coffee. "Me either. I'll let you know," said Shane as he looks towards Lori. She avoids his stare and goes back to eating. Dr. Edwin walks in. "Morning," said Dr. Edwin. "Everyone says morning." "Hey Doc," greeted Rick. "Doctor, I don't mean to slam you with questions in the first thing in the morning," said Rick. "But you will anyway," stated Dr. Edwin as he pours himself a cup of coffee. Andrea turns her head and stares at Dr. Edwin. "We didn't come here for the eggs," stated Andrea. She and everyone then walk into Dr. Edwin's lap, with the doctor leading the way. Dr. Edwin then types. He then looks up at the screen. "Can you play back TS19?" asked Dr. Edwin. The computer then repeats back what he said. "Few ever got a chance to see this." "Very few," said Dr. Edwin. Carl looks towards the doctor with a confused expression. "Is that a brain?" asked Carl. Dr. Edwin looks towards Carl. "Extraordinary. Not that it matters in the end," said Dr. Edwin. He looks back to the screen. "Take us in for an EIV," ordered Dr. Edwin. "Enhancing internal view," said the computer. It then views into the brain. "What are those?" asked Shane, looking up at the screen. "It's the person's life, experiences, memories, it's everything," said Dr. Edwin, who goes into lectured mode. "Some way in all that organic wiring, in all those ripples, is life. As you, the thing that makes you unique and human," said the doctor, who's happy to explain. Daryl with his arms crossed looks confused. It all makes sense ever. Asked Daryl. Those are synapses, electrical impulses in the brain that carries all the messages. They determine everything a person says or thinks at the moment of birth till the moment of death, said Dr. Edwin, shocking everyone. Death? This is what this is, visual? Asked Rick, walking up to Dr. Edwin. Yes, or rather a playback of a visual, answered Dr. Edwin. Andre looks up at the screen in curiosity. If this person died, who? Asked Andrea. Test subject 19. Someone who was bitten and infected, and volunteered us to record the process, answered Dr. Edwin, looking towards the blonde woman. Vine scan of the first event, ordered Dr. Edwin. Scanning to first event, said the computer in female robotic tone. The group then watches as the zombie virus affects test subject 19's brain. Glenn looks up in wonder and curiosity. What is that? Asked Glenn as he looks at the black substance invading the brain. Dr. Edwin looks back at Glenn. It invades the brain like meningitis. The adrenal glands hammers in the brain, shuts down then the major organs, then death, said Dr. Edwin as he looks down. Everything you ever were, or will be gone, said Dr. Edwin. Sophia looks up to her mother. Is that what happened to Jim? Asked Sophia. Carol nods her head. Yes, said Carol. Lori looks towards Dr. Edwin as everyone bows their head in sadness. She lost someone 2 days ago, her sister, said Lori. Dr. Edwin then looks at the saddened Andrea. I've lost someone too, I know how devastating it is, said Dr. Edwin. He then turns to the screen. Scan of the second event, ordered Dr. Edwin. Scanning to second event, said the computer. Everyone then looks toward a screen watching the screenplay. Dr. Edwin then goes into lecture mode once again. The resurrection time is very wildly. We have reports happening only in 3 minutes. The longest we've heard is 8 hours in the case of this patient, 2 hours, 1 minute, 7 seconds, said Dr. Edwin. He and everyone watches as one of the test subject brain be infected with the zombie virus. It restarts the brain? Asked a shocked Lori, with her attention now on the doctor and at the same time wonder, is that what happens when you get bitten by the zombies? Dr. Edwin turns back looking at Lori. No, just the brainstem, basically a death up and moving, said Dr. Edwin. This catches everyone on guard and confusion and uneasy. Rick then looks towards Dr. Edwin. But they're not alive, said Rick, giving Dr. Edwin a questionable stare. Dr. Edwin looks towards the leader of the group. You tell me? Asked Dr. Edwin as everyone watches the infected test subject's brain. A concerned yet troubled shook his head negatively. It's nothing like before. Most of that brain is dark, stated Rick. They continue watching the now dark brain. Dark, lifeless, dead, the frontal lobe, the neocortex, the human cortex, the human part that doesn't come back, the you part. Just a shell by mindless incidents, said Dr. Edwin as he explains what happens when you fully become infected by a zombie. They then watch as something or someone killed the test subject. God, what was that? Asked a concerned Carl. He shoot his patient in the head, answered Andrea. She then looks down to the floor. Didn't you? Asked Andrea. Dr. Edwin then starts to walk out the lab. Vibe power down the main screen and the workstations, ordered Dr. Edwin. Powering down main screen and workstations, said the computer. Everything starts to turn off as he walks by. Daryl glares his eyes in suspicion at how the doctor avoided the question. Andrea lets out a sigh. You have no idea what it is, do you? Asked Andrea with her arms crossed underneath her bust. Dr. Edwin looks back at the group. It could be microbial, viral, parasitic, fungal, answered Dr. Edwin. Jackie, with a hand on her lip, looks towards the doctor with a stern look. For the wrath of God, said Jackie. Dr. Edwin turns his head, avoiding the gaze from the black woman. There is that, stated Dr. Edwin. Andrea walks up the doctor. Somebody must know something. Somebody somewhere, said a slightly aggravated Andrea, and angry at the fact no doctor had found out why the dead is coming back eating people. There are others, right? Other facilities? Asked a concerned Jackie. There may be some people like me, said Dr. Edwin, who is even unsure if there are any. A frustrated Rick walks towards Dr. Edwin. But you don't know. How could you not know? Asked Rick. Everything went down, communications, directives, all of it. I've been in the dark for almost a month, said Dr. Edwin, allowing everyone to know how much of the dark he's truly in. Andrea looks towards the doctor. So, it's not just you? There's nothing left anywhere? Nothing. That's what you're really saying, right? Said Andrea. Dr. Edwin avoids her gaze in shame and everyone sighs at the fact that no one knows what's truly going on, not even doctors. Jackie shakes her head. Jesus. Said Jackie, clearly not enjoying the fact the one person who could give them answers doesn't know anything or even why the dead had started coming back. Daryl sighs loudly, then double-face palming his face. I'ma get shit-faced drunk, exclaimed Daryl, leaning against a computer. Dale walks up to the blonde man. Dr. Jenner, I know this had been tacking for you, and I hate to ask one more question, but that clock is counting down. What happens at 0? Asked a concerned Dale. The doctor lets out an uneasy sigh. The basement generators run out of fuel, said Dr. Edwin. He then begins to walk away. Rick looks concerned. And then? Asked Rick, but the doctor just walks away. He turns towards the computer. Vibe, what happens when the power run out? Asked Rick. When the power runs, facility deep-wide contamination will incurred, answered the computer. The group then rushes down to the basement to check the fuel. Rick then orders everyone to search out, finding the fuel. Rick then stumbles on an empty fuel tank. It's empty, said Rick, looking back at Shane. He then sighs loudly, contemplating on what to do next. The lights then flicker off and on. What the hell is this? Asked Shane. Both T-Dog and Glenn run back, meeting up with Shane and Rick. Did you guys cut the lights? Asked Glenn. Nah, they went off, said Shane. Find anything? Asked Rick. Yay. A lot of dead generator and more empty fuel than I can count, said T-Dog, informing them with his voice worried. They gather around Rick. Shane. It can't be good. Most are empty, said Shane, looking back at Rick. Everyone then gathers together, the people in confusion, shock, angered and drunken, angry from Daryl. Rick, said Lori, looking towards her husband. Rick walks up to Dr. Edwin. Jenner, what's happening? Asked Rick. The group and the doctor speedwalk. The generators and systems are losing power. It's designed to make the computers run until the last possible second. It starts at the half-hour mark, said Dr. Edwin. They enter the lab. He then looks at the clock. Right on schedule, said Dr. Edwin. He then chugs the whole bottle. He then stops walking, causing everyone to be confused. Daryl then grabs back the bottle. It was the French, said Dr. Edwin. What? Asked Andrea, who's left confused. Dr. Edwin turns around. They were the last ones hold down. As far as a lot of people were bolting down the door and committing suicide in the hallways, but they stayed in the labs till the end. They thought they were close to a solution, said Dr. Edwin. What happened? Asked a concerned and wondering Jackie. Same thing that is happening here. A power breakdown. Ran out of juice. The world runs on fossil fuel. I mean, how stupid is that? Said Dr. Edwin. Shane then gets up and walks towards Edwin. Let me tell you something, growled Shane, who's ready to attack the doctor out of anger. Rick then grabs onto his friend's arm in an attempt to stop him. Stop it, Shane. I don't even care, said Rick. He then turns towards his wife. Lori, grab your things. Everybody grab your stuff, we're getting out of here now, ordered Rick. Time skip. Dr. Edwin had just told everyone the truth. This facility. This is our extinction of the end, exclaimed Dr. Edwin in tone that has nothing and void of any emotion. Carol starts to cry, hugging her daughter. You can't just keep us here, cried Carol. One tiny moment of millisecond, no pain, said Dr. Edwin, convincing the mother that she wouldn't even feel death. My daughter doesn't deserve to die like this, cried Carol, holding on her daughter. Everyone then gets up, tired of hearing from a man who has just given up. Wouldn't it be kinder, more compassionate to just hold your loved ones as the cloak runs down, said Dr. Edwin. Dale and Rick gives the man questioning stare. Shane then points the gun at the doctor. Rick grabs the gun. If he dies, we all die, yelled Rick. Shane then goes crazy and starts shooting everything. He grabs the gun, hitting Shane, causing him to fall to the ground. You done now? You done? Asked Rick, staring down at his friend. Yeah, I guess we all are, said Shane, who's still on the ground. Rick then hands the gun to T-Dog. He then his attention to his shocked wife. He then turns back to the doctor. I think you're lying, stated Rick. Dr. Edwin raised his head. What? Said Dr. Edwin. I think you're lying. About no hope. If that was true, you would have bolted with the rest and taken the easy way out. You didn't. You choose the hard path, asked Rick. It doesn't matter, said Dr. Edwin. Rick then smiles at the doctor. It does matter. It always matters. You stayed and went on this rant, why? Asked Rick. Dr. Edwin then stares back at Rick. Not because I wanted to. I made a promise to her. My wife, said Dr. Edwin. Test subject 19 was your wife? Asked Lori, but it was more of a statement. She made me keep going as long as I could. How could I say no? She was dying. It should have been me on that table. It didn't matter to anyone. She was lost to the world. Hell, she ran this place. I just worked here in our field. She was Einstein. Me, I'm just Edwin Jenner. She could have done something about this, not me, said Dr. Edwin. Your wife didn't have a choice. You do. That's all we want, a choice, a chance, said Rick, trying to convince the doctor. Edwin turns towards Lori, who's holding her son. Let us keep trying as long as we can, said Lori. The doctor closes his eyes and decides if he should really let them go. I told the doors are locked and I can't open those, said Dr. Edwin. He then opens the door and everyone runs out. There's your chance, take it, said Dr. Edwin. I'm grateful, said Rick. The day will come where you won't be, said Dr. Edwin. He then shakes his head, whispering into Rick's ear. His wife pulls him away and they run. Jackie decides to stay, seeing no real point living in a world where they are on the bottom of the food chain. They then struggle to escape until Carol hands Rick a hand grenade and leave the place, saddened by the death of Jackie. Days later, the group continues looking for a new home. But soon days have turned to weeks. After torturous hours of inside the car, both Carl and Sophia sighs loudly, who are clearly bored out of their mind. They might live in a world where the undead walk among the living and humans have become at the bottom of the food chain, but they are still children, and like all children they get bored when there's nothing to do. And just like most children, they can only take so much, and both children have had their breaking point, but Carl had reached maximum boredom. At hearing both children sigh loudly, Rick, who's driving the RV, turns head, looking at his bored son. He snickers at this, while his wife had a small smile. At times like this, Rick enjoys the peaceful moments. It almost felt normal, like it was before his coma and before the undead had started walking around. Rick smiles at his son. Bored Carl? Grinned Rick, enjoying the sheepless expression of his son. Carl rubs the back of his head nervously with an embarrassed blush across his cheek. Ah ha ha, yeah. I kinda am, Dad. But I can't help it, we've been driving around for weeks, complained Carl with his hand leaning against his face. Lori smirked her son. Would you rather have us running from the walkers? Asked Lori, giving her son a motherly smile. Carl pals at hearing the mention of walkers. Carl's pink cheeks turned pale. He may be bored, but he wasn't bored enough to want to face a walker. Carl shakes his head negatively. No, I'm fine with driving around for weeks. Driving around is good, said a frightened Carl. Everyone laughs at this while Sophia just blinks, not really paying attention to what Rick, Lori, and Carl are even talking about. The little girl looks towards her mother with a childlike expression. Carol smiles at her daughter. What is it, honey? Asked Carol. I'm bored, Mom, said Sophia, looking at her mother. Well, what do you want me to do, honey? Asked Carol in motherly tone. Sophia grins at her mother. Tell me a story, asked Sophia, but it was more of a childlike demand. Everyone laughs at her childlike attitude. Carol chuckles at her daughter. To her and everyone, these are the moments they enjoyed. She then kneels down to her daughter. Okay, Sophia, what story do you want to hear? Asked Carol, smiling down at her child. Sophia hums to herself. She then grins up at her mother. Tell me the story of Rapunzel, yelled Sophia. Everyone laughs, snickers, and giggles at the child. She smiles at her daughter, tilting her head. Okay, I'll tell you about Rapunzel, said Carol in motherly tone. Sophia giggled at this while mother and daughter were having a storytelling time. Rick narrows as he and the rest have entered a small town, but the real thing that caused Rick to narrow his eyes is because the small grass-like town has no walkers anywhere in sight. Rick then grabs his walkie-talkie. All right, everyone stay alert, ordered Rick. Everyone in the other cars nods their heads. Dale picks up his walkie-talkie. You heard the man, stay alert everyone, said Dale, reminding everyone to keep their eyes open. Daryl, still pissed about almost dying, takes a chug from his whiskey bottle. The redneck narrows his eyes, wondering where the walkers are. Where the damned walkers? I mean, we always ran into them, but this don't feel right, exclaimed Daryl. Rick nods his head. I feel you, Daryl, said Rick. The leader of the group then smirks. Everyone, do you see what I see? Asked Rick. And the group does they see a small grocery store. I think if we go around back we might not track any of the wandering walkers on front so we can small group goes to the back find a decent amount of canned foods. Said Rick, him, Daryl, Shane, and TT Dog go to the back but the way back is closed off so they have no choice but to go through the front. Carol looks worried at seeing them back so soon. What happened? Asked Carol who looks frightened that something happened. Shane rubs the back of his head. Nah, it was locked, said Shane. Everyone nods their head. Yeah, so, we got to go through the front entrance, said an uneasy Glenn who clearly doesn't want to go through the front entrance if there are hundreds of walkers. Alright everyone get ready. Daryl you're behind me, Shane you're with me, T-Dog, Glenn cover us. Ordered Rick he then towards everyone else stay alert, ordered Rick. As they are locked and loaded heading out they just suddenly stop once they enter the store because they see just piles and piles of dead walkers. Lori, Carol, and Andrea but a hand over their mouths while Dale and everyone is shocked never seeing something like this. Dear God, said a shocked Dale. Alright watch out they might still be undead and not dead, said Rick they nod their head, carefully going past the undead as they are walking. Carl trips and stumbles. Dale helps Carl up. You okay? Asked Dale in a worried tone. Carl nods his head he then smiles at the gentle old man. Yeah, said Carl. Dale then looks down seeing what he tripped on and saw a loose tile. Well it looks like a tile. Chuckled Dale he then smiles. Come on let's keep going. Asked Dale. Carl nods his head but unknown to the group the recording cameras are watching them with them blinking like red. Suddenly they stopped dead in their truck hearing the clunk clunk. Turning toward the sound they see an armored figure whose armor looks like Peruvian riot armor. The person wears silver armored gauntlets he has armored boots with a massive sword in one hand and a bag thrown over his shoulder and strapped to his back is AM1 a SOCOM-E. The man appears to be Japanese with blonde hair and who appears to be 21 years of age. He has ocean blue eyes spiky blonde hair he has whispered birthmarks on each side of his face. He just stopped there and looking at them. The group and this mysterious blonde just stare at each other. The man drops the bag pointing his gun and sword at the group. He then glares at the group pointing his gun at Rick. Turn around and leave now, said the blonde man in a cold tone. Rick not expecting this raised his arms with a shocked expression. Can you blame the man? He hasn't seen that many people since we woke up. He then gives everyone the don't do anything stupid. Look there might just be one man put if they shoot him we might shoot someone from the group. Look we don't want any trouble we are just looking somewhere to live, said Rick as he stares at the young Japanese man eyes. I don't care now leave before I bust a cap in all your asses. Threatened the blonde. I don't care where you came from but you might as well leave now, said the blonde-haired man. Shane growls at this. I just let us before he could finish his sentence a bullet had grazed his cheek. Shane moves his hand to his left cheek whipping off the blood. The blonde glares at Shane. I don't gotta do shit. Now that was a warning shoot the next shoot will between your eyes. Threatened the blonde before he could do anything else. Another person Japanese ethnicity runs behind him. This Japanese person is a female with pale yet fair skin. The blonde leans in to kiss her cheek. Don't worry babe these people were just leaving, said the blonde taking his eyes off of the group. She has pale lavender eyes and light blonde hair that falls past her waist, which she keeps tied at the end with a bow. She wears a tank top that has the picture of Luna from Sailor Moon. On her middle finger she wears a silver gold bang ring. She wears dark red denim jeans and black shoes. The blonde woman hugs the blonde man from behind. Come on Naruto you can't just turn these away when they need us and are in need of help. Besides they have children with them. Come on babe it will be fun having extra help, whispered the woman. The man known as Naruto growls. Shion I don't care if these people were dying of a new disease I still wouldn't want them in outhouse. And I really don't care if these brats were the last brats on Earth I would rather have a Bigfoot, Chupacabra, and Shredder from Ninja Turtles, whispered Naruto in a complaining tone. Please for me Naruto. Come on by having them here you can make them do whatever you want, whispered Shion after 2 minutes of silence. Naruto then lets out a growl he then turns his attention at the group. Alright lucky for you my wife had convinced me to let you stay but you gonna have to work for your keeps and when I say all of you will work for your keeps I mean all of you. Here's a daily chores I want you to do. Check the zombie trap check the pit traps check the fire traps check the sound pit. Check on the rabbits, check on the chickens, check the goat, check the water traps, check the wind turbines, check on the plants. Check the building for any damages, check the defenses, check up the barricades, check the cars. Scavenging for goods, look for building materials, cleaning out and mark buildings. Pull your own weight. If you're sick, let people know. If you're bit, let people know. And do the job right, not half-ass. Oh, and here's a reminder, if you harm my wife in any way, you'll be punished. If you steal anything, you'll be punished. If you try to kill me, you better make I'm dead, beaten, broken, my head mounted on your wall kinda dead, because if I get the chance I'm taking your head and it's going on one of the pike outside. You were here because my wife wanted me to save you, so thank her, because if it was me I cut you down and use you as zombie bait. And if you don't like it you can always leave, said Naruto, walking away. As Shion watches her husband walk away, she couldn't help but to gain a nervous smile. She then turns back to Rick's group with an apologetic smile. She then gives the group a slight bow. I'm really sorry, my husband is a real nice guy, but he's just trying to protect the three of us, said Shion. Everyone raised an eyebrow when she said us? Do one of you two have a younger sibling? Asked Carol in a curious tone. Shion giggles, causing the group to be confused at what's funny. I don't get it. What's so funny? Asked a confused and suspicious Andrea, believing the girl in front of her may be insane or something. It's nothing. It's just that the third person I'm talking about is Naruto's and my 1-year-old daughter Tsukihime, Moon Princess, said Shion, shocking everyone due to the fact that Naruto and Shion are so young, but it also has to do with the fact that Naruto was going to kill them if it wasn't for Shion, or he would gladly set them on their way, not even caring if they were eaten by the walkers. Hell, the young blonde man was even willing to kill their children, and not a single hint of concern. Shion then begins walking forward, heading back home. She had a feeling her daughter would probably be crying right about now, since around this time Tsukihime will wake up. Rick's group follows Shion. As they look around they notice various of traps, like giant bear traps that looks like something out of that Vin Diesel movie Riddick. They even see a pit filled with wooden spikes. They couldn't help but wonder what other types of traps are around here. Well, damn, this place is covered in traps, said Dale as he walks over a landmine. Well, of course it is. Naruto and I made sure if any zombie wanders around here they'll be killed by one of us or by the traps. It's how we've been to be so safe. I mean, would you rather have a home with no defenses whatsoever or a house with enough defenses? Asked Shion. It didn't take long for the group to think over the question. It was pretty obvious. Lori turns to the pale blonde female. Shion? Asked Lori in concerned and nervous tone. Shion turns towards the older woman. Yeah, what is it? Asked Shion, staring at Lori with her bright purple eyes. Lori lets out a soft sigh, not really sure how to say. I was wondering, how are you and Naruto together? Asked Lori in a various tone, hoping the woman in front of her isn't as cold and as murderous like her blonde husband. Yeah, how did a nice girl like you get with a fucking asshole like that? Asked T-Dog in a curious tone as he towers over the young Japanese woman. Everyone turns towards the large African American as Rick, Dale, and Shane glare at T-Dog. Dude, what are you trying to do? Whispered Glenn. Everyone turns around, seeing Shion with hand on our hip with an obvious expression that expresses how unanimous. I know Naruto has seemed offensive, but he works hard to make sure we're safe, and he'll do anything to make sure our family's safe, no matter how dirty he must have get his hands. But it also has with the fact that I've known him for 7 years, plus it also helps that he was my high school crush and sweetheart. Said Shion in a clear that it was pretty obvious that she reminiscing about the past. Shane raises his eyebrow, still not sure how she could like him. Really? Him? Asked Shane. Shion nods her head. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe, but we were. Maybe when we get back I might tell you how he used to be like a delinquent at our school. Said Shion as she walks ahead. The group quickly followed the blonde Japanese woman, who honestly doesn't want to be left behind. Rick walks next to her. He then turns towards Shion. Abed, the man had to be honest, he'd never seen a Japanese woman with purple eyes or a Japanese man with blue eyes. Hell, the man never saw a blonde Japanese person in his life. So, Shion, why do you call them zombies? Asked Rick, looking at the young Japanese woman. Shion turns to Rick. Well, that's what they are, reanimated dead core. What would you call them, the Walking Dead? Joked Shion as she stares at the former cop. They suddenly hear laughing and turn to see Dale chuckling. It was kinda funny. But little lady, to answer your question, we call them walkers. Said Dale, walking with his crossbow. Shion, who were you before? Asked Andrea. Shion smiles at the blonde-haired woman. Before the zombie apocalypse I was a high schooler, but I was also a priestess," said Sheehan with a smile. Carol raised an eyebrow. "A priestess? But I thought only people in Japan had priestesses?" asked Carol. Sheehan smiles at the short-haired woman. "Well, I moved to California when I was 5 years old," said Sheehan, informing the woman. "My legs are tired," complained Sophia. "Are we there yet?" asked Carl, causing everyone to laugh at the fact that the tension was gone. Dale turns to Sheehan. "Sheehan, are we almost there?" asked Dale. Sheehan nods her head. "Yeah, just a few more miles, but we're almost there," said Sheehan. She couldn't blame them. When she, Tsukihime, and Naruto had first moved to this new house, it would feel like they have been walking for hours. But thanks to them constantly walking around, both had gotten used to it. As they travel through the abandoned town, they notice statues of various people. Daryl raises an eyebrow at the statues. "What the hell's with the statues?" asked the zombie-killing redneck. "These are the statues of Naruto and mine former group. Naruto and Omoi helped build these statues as a memorial to our fallen group," said Sheehan with a downcast expression. "I can't believe it's only been 7 months since Omoi had died," thought Sheehan. "Where is this Omoi? Is he back at your house? Or is he around here?" asked Glenn with a curious expression. Sheehan shook her head negatively. She then gains a small sad smile. "No, he's dead. He died when he saved me. Sadly, he wasn't as lucky as I was. When 10 zombies had literally ripped him apart and ate him," said Sheehan with a sad expression. Glenn looks down in shame at having to have Sheehan remember one of her friend's death. "Sorry, Sheehan. I didn't know," said Glenn. Sheehan turns to Glenn. "There's no reason for you to apologize. You didn't know. Besides, how could you know? You were just curious. Anyways, what are your names?" "You know mine, but I don't know any of your," asked Sheehan after they introduced themselves to everyone and had explained a little about themselves. Sheehan could actually say it was nice talking to other people. While she enjoyed being with her husband, she missed talking to other people after all since the zombie apocalypse, or what would Rick say, the undead take over. She and Naruto had changed from what they used to be before everything basically to hell. At least when the zombie pandemic happened there were still a lot of people, but now seeing a human is so rare it's almost like we're extinct. But since this world had basically became survival of the fittest, we're basically on the bottom of the food chain, thought Sheehan in critical way. With Naruto as the armored blonde enters a large white 2-story house with 2 bathrooms, a living room, and backyard that's covered in grenades. The house is surrounded by cameras, M15, M16, grenade launchers, and spear launchers. As Naruto enters the house, he puts his sword and gun away in the weapon safe that holds various of weapons he'd stole and killed from multiple of people such as cops and military. Naruto takes off his helmet and walks upstairs where he hears crying. Naruto smiles softly as he opens the door. Once he opens the door, the room is designed for a girl. In the middle of the room is a baby blue and pink baby crib. Within the crib is a Tsukihime crying. Tsukihime has tan skin like her father, but she has violet eyes just like her mother. The infant has shiny pale blonde hair. Tsukihime stops crying once she sees her dad. Tsukihime lets out a happy scream of joy at looking at her dad. Naruto grins at Tsukihime. "Papa," muttered Tsukihime. Naruto picks up Tsukihime and she nuzzles her soft cheek against Naruto's whiskered face. Naruto massages her scalp and smiles at her with a fatherly smile. "How was your nap, honey?" asked Naruto in a fatherly tone. Naruto lets out a chuckle as Tsukihime slaps her palm against Naruto's whiskered jawline. Tsukihime then runs her hand against his whiskered birthmark. Tsukihime lets out a giggle with her face showered in an expression. Naruto couldn't help himself but smile at her moment of joy. I guess they were right about a baby laughter is able to make everything a little better. "Isn't it my Hanirozu, honey rose? Your laugh can make the whole world, can't it?" said Naruto, making silly faces which Sheehan and Tsukihime has only seen and probably the only people who will ever see it. Naruto then pets her head, at which causes Tsukihime to release a scream of joy. Tsukihime then begins to bounce off her feet and clapping her hands together. Naruto smiles down at Tsukihime. "I take it you want me to sing for you, huh?" asked Naruto with a half smirk. Tsukihime just let out a joyous laugh. "Which one do you want, Sailor Moon or Mew Mew Power?" asked Naruto. Tsukihime gives her father a grin, showing off her gums and her teeth that are growing in. Ryu, said Tsukihime in a baby tone. Ooh. So you want Mew Mew power this time? Asked Naruto. Tsukihime nods her head, staring at her dad's blue cerulean eyes. Naruto just smiles at her. He was quite surprised she wanted him to sing Mew Mew power, since she always wanted him or Shion to sing Sailor Moon. Song start. Mew Mew power opening, My Sweetheart by Rika Komatsu. I tied a ribbon to my hair, and then I tried to smile. I had a feeling that I had changed who I was. A little bit of courage becomes confidence. I had forgotten that fact. Until I met you. Any girl can become fearless by knowing a special kind of magic. It's show time. Make my heart beat faster and fast. I always want to know these exciting feelings. I will show you a different me. So please, I become more and more open. As I overflow with this feeling, I would like to send it all to you. Please accept it, my sweetheart. If you give me a hug, this bouquet of light surely becomes a dazzling tomorrow, because my grand ideals are received like the fluttering wings of my very heart. A girl can become everything pretty if she meets her one true beloved. It's show time. My excitement is like expecting the beginning. I want to search the unknown you even more. Always, before long, we'll see dreams together, right? If we join hand in hand. Isn't it mysterious? Change my mind. It's show time. Make my heart beat faster and fast. I always want to know these exciting feelings. I will show you a different me. So please. I become more and more open. As I overflow with this feeling, I would like to send it all to you. Please accept it, my sweet. Please accept it, my sweet. Please accept it, my sweet heart. Song end. Just as Naruto finishes the song, he wears the door open. That took forever. Groaned Shane as he's tired from long walk, but you would think he would got used to this. Carl lets out an almost defeated tone. I thought my legs were going to fall off. Complained Carl. How do you and Naruto do this every day? Asked Lori, looking at Shion. Before she can answer Lori, Naruto steps in the room, because we're used to walking long distance. Said Nature with a glare. Unfortunately you are living here, but as I said before, it's only thanks to my wife you are even here, because if it was my way you'd be used as life bait. But I hope you all remember that promise I said. If any of you harm my wife and child, I'll kill you and cut off your heads and use them for a trap. But enough talk, it's time to get to work. Said Naruto in a tone leaving now room for an argument. But sadly the wife of Rick doesn't really understand that he's in control and not them. But we just got here, can't we do all tomorrow? Complained Lori, glaring at Naruto. Naruto just looks at her with a blank expression. No, I don't care how tired you or anyone in your little band is. Said Naruto in a cold tone. And that also goes for the brats. Said Naruto in an emotionless tone. But you can't do that. They're just children, yelled Carol. Naruto just raised an eyebrow. So, and just like every one of you, they will work if they want to eat or bathe. Did you really think I was playing when I said you people will have to work? I meant it, and if you don't like it then you can all get the fuck out or do what I say, but again you're only here because of my wife. Said Naruto in a dark tone, scaring everyone, making them believe that Naruto will kill them. Alright, fine, we'll do what you say. Said Rick. Naruto turns towards Rick. I know you would. Said Naru, exiting the house as he grabs his sword, gun, and helmet. And did you know that Rick would do what you said? Asked Daryl. Naruto turns towards Daryl. Simple, it's human nature to look out for those who you care about it, and unlike your obviously leader Rick, he won't do what's necessary, unlike me who will sacrifice each and every one of you even if the human race is damned near extinct. Said Naruto. Everyone then follows Naruto and Shion. After traveling for 7 minutes they stop when they see numerous of bear traps and tiny mines. Okay, for today Sheriff Ted, Deputy Ned, and Redneck with me, we're going to check for dull traps. Ordered Naruto. He then looks towards T-Dog, Glenn, and Darl. You generic black people always die in horror movies. Jet Li, back up, and well-mannered Doc from Back to the Future will be hunting 9 miles north is where you will go up there into the shed and pull out the hunting weapons. The animals are around the area. Said Naruto. He then turned towards the females and children. Rick wife, desperate single mother, less desperate mom, Brat 1 and Brat 2. Will go with Shion to check and rehydrate the vegetables and fruits. You will also be feeding the pigs, chickens, and horses. Ordered Naruto. He waves at wife. He then leaves and begins to go to work with all the men groaning in annoyance except Rick and Dale. Shion turns to the other females and children. Wow, your husband is scary, said Amy, but her mother glares at her daughter. Shion just nods her head. Yeah, he is, but Naruto didn't used to be like that, said Shion, with Amy rubbing the back of her neck nervously. Oh yay, you said that before, didn't you? Asked Andrea. Shion nods her head to the blonde female. Yeah, I'll tell you what we used to be like on our way, said Shion. Each of them nods their head. Flashback 45 days ago. It was an average Monday morning at Los Angeles' Rumiko Takahashi High School. Mike Guy, the coach of the boxing team, along with Rock Lee and Elfman Strauss, who's co-captain of boxing team, doing their usual workout session. Usually this wouldn't be a problem since it's 7:31 in the morning, but these three exercise monsters have been working out since 4 in the morning, causing everyone to be annoyed, including Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, Brittany Wong, Nazaro Megi, Emily Jane, and Cassandra Stacy, who are Rumiko Takahashi High School's popular girls who are extremely annoyed. At Rumiko Takahashi High School there's a uniform dress code. The females wear sporting white loose and slouch socks and brown loafers with a light brown vest sweater. Underneath the sweater is a blue button-up shirt. The shirt also has a yellow and white bow tie, and black skirt. The men at the school wears a black long sleeves dress shirt, a long crimson red school tie, black pants and a black and silver school blazer. Hell, each and every single one of those girls don't understand how those three can even work out so early. They still don't understand how Elfman is going out with Evergreen, who's 3 years older than him. While others such as Karen Uzumaki, Sarah, Hinata Hyuga, Tenten, Jenny Relight, Tamari, Elizabeth Yellowbear, Shion, Cha-Cha Akaza, Kimi Sato, and Satwan Shichimiya talk among themselves, who have gotten used to the three, which sounds unlikely, which is since they're basically ignoring them. As the girls standing outside sitting on the tables and chairs, Tamari smirks towards Jenny with a sly grin. So Jenny, got any guys that caught your? Asked Tamari with an all-knowing smirk. The busty blonde turns towards Tamari with her own smirk. And what about you? I thought you and Shikamaru were dating? Asked Jenny, but she soon raised an eyebrow once Tamari had a scowl on her face. Kimi, who has her head buried in a Demon King daimao, takes her head out of the manga and looks at Tamari. Are you sure he was cheating on you with Kin? Asked Kimi. Yeah, Mom, maybe you read it wrong. Maybe she kissed him first, said Hinata in a shy tone. Tamari shook her head negatively. No, I'm sure he cheated on me with that hoe, said Tamari in a stubborn tone. Shion turns to Tamari with a deadpan expression. How do you know that Shikamaru cheated on you? I mean, what Kimi and Hinata say is true. This could be all a huge misunderstanding. You don't want to be like when you thought Lucy and Lisana were dating? Asked Shion, laughing at the mention of Tamari believing Lucy and Lisana were gay. Well, Lisana was gay for Sine, but besides that she didn't want another misunderstanding. Tamari shook her head with an angry expression. Nope, I saw Shikamaru kissed her first then grabbed that thing's ass, snarled Tamari in an angry tone. Karen raises her glasses and turns towards Jenny. But Jenny, you never did answer. Are you talking to a boy, and if so, is he hot? Asked Karen. Jenny turns to Karen. Nah, but I went on a date with this guy, Red Bear, said Jenny, letting out a loud groan. It couldn't be that bad, said Sarah, laughing at Jenny's annoyed expression. Oh, but it was. The guy was a total asshole and he was so damn cheap, pouted Jenny, letting out a huff. Tenten looks at Jenny with an unimpressed expression as she plays with her Chung OC wristbands. You make it sound like it was the worst date of your life, said Tenten with a playful smirk. Jenny looks towards Tenten. Oh, but at hi Naruto, yelled Cha-Cha, causing everyone to look at Naruto, Omoi, and Suigetsu, who's running from Kiba, Neji, and Sasuke, who's covered in glue feathers and bubble wrap. A grinning Naruto sidesteps and snatches Suigetsu's giant water bottle. He squirts water and causing Kiba, Sasuke, and Neji to slip and land face first. Naruto lets out a loud laugh. Muahaha. The prank master has striked again, teams beware, laughed Naruto, with everyone laughing uncontrollably. Another busty blonde walks towards Naruto with a shoulder-length hair. That was cool, said Samui. Karui lets out a laugh. Ahaha, serves those bastards right, yelled Karui. Her friend Kuratsuchi would have commented, but she was on the floor laughing her ass off with tears running down her face. Naruto bows. Thank you, I appreciate your laughter, said Naruto in a joking tone. Temari walks over to Naruto. Thanks Naruto, I needed that, said Temari with a smile, whipping away the tears of her laughing so hard. Naruto just waved her off. No problem Temari, I'm glad to help Dabayo, yelled Naruto with a wide grin. Do you even know what I'm talking about? Asked Temari. Nope. Not really, said Naruto. Temari sighs at the blonde in front of. She shouldn't really be surprised. But thanks anyways Naruto, said Temari with a sad smile, causing alarms to go off in the blonde's head. He then narrows his blue orbs into Temari. What happened Temari? Asked Naruto in a concerned tone. Temari released a sigh. No matter how many pranks or how dumb he acts, Naruto would always be there for his friends. It's one of the many things he liked, what being friends with the blonde teen. She might not be his best friend like her younger brother Gaara and Haku, but she knew he would do anything for his friends. She figured this is why people like him so much. Well, except for the assholes and your general mean popular girls. Temari then rubs her arm and looks at the tan Japanese male with a sad expression. I saw him. I saw Shikamaru making out with that bitchkin, sneered Temari in anger as she grits her teeth in path. Naruto just looked pissed, narrowing his eyes in disgust at his friend Shikamaru for cheating on his friend. Do you know why? Asked Naruto, hoping she might know why the lazy genius would do something so stupid. Temari shook her head negatively at Naruto. I'm not sure why, but all I know is he was making out with Kin behind the science classroom. I saw that cheating bastard groping her ass. Hell, I even saw him groping her fucking titties, snarled Temari. Does Gaara or Kankuro know? Asked Naruto. Since he knew both her brothers would kill Shikamaru in a heartbeat, he knew how protective those two can be if their elder sister. Suigetsu nudges Temari with a toothy grin. Yano, I can always unalive that Nara for you. Grin Suigetsu, who wiggles his eyebrows at Temari, who chuckles at him. Suigetsu is then pushed to the side by Karui. She then stares into the blonde female eyes. Please let me do it, please. That bastard always pissed me off, roared the African female. Omoi sighs at the redhead. But everyone pisses you off, said Omoi. Karui then glares at him. Who asked you? Roared Karui as she puts Omoi in a headlock. Shion giggles at this, causing everyone to turn towards the other female. Blonde Naruto rushes to her, preventing anyone from even greeting her. He then spins her around in a 160 rotation. She then released a giggle and gives Naruto a chaste peck on the lips. Jenny smiles sweetly at Shion. Hey there Shion, waved Jenny with a cheerful smile. Shion raised an eyebrow at her fellow blonde. Hii? But you were here, I got here? Said Shion with a raised eyebrow. Jenny just grins. Yeah, I know, said Jenny. Shion just shook her head at Jenny. She could such an idiot, but she knew Shion does this so she can erase whatever tension that is going on with our friends. Shion then glances at Temari. You know Gaara and Kanuro will find out one way or another. If lucky, Kankuro will be the one to find out. Sure, Shikamaru would be in a body cast, but we all know Gaara would kill him and has no problems with it, said Shion. Temari couldn't help but to agree. She then turns towards Naruto, who raised an eyebrow at her. What? Questioned Naruto with the tilt of the head. He then gains a deadpan expression. Do I have to? Groaned Naruto. Shion then turns towards Naruto. Come on Naruto, we all know you want to fight him. I mean, at least with you Shikamaru won't be able to cheat on every single girl. Besides, you don't even like your second class. Hey, Jenny, what does Naruto always say about Mr. Obito? Questioned Shion in a sweet tone. Jenny giggles in a cutesy way. You always say you hate that asshat. Isn't that right, Satwan? Asked Jenny, looking down at the petite girl. Satwan nods her head with a wide grin. Jenny then turns back to the blonde male. Besides, weren't you planning on ditching anyways? Asked Jenny with a raised eyebrow. Shion puffs out her cheeks. You can skip second period, but you better come to third period, demanded Shion. Naruto sighs in defeat. Fine, said Naruto. He then walks away with his hand in his pockets. Knowing you Shikamaru, you're mostly laying down in front of that big sakura tree. Nara, get ready for old-fashioned, working ass kickin', grinned the blonde with a toothy grin. Kimi, who has her head buried into a Tokyo new power manga, glances at Tenten. I think Shikamaru is going to do, said Kimi. Tenten nods her head in agreement. I think so too, said Tenten. As Naruto makes it to the tree, he narrows his eyes. What the hell is that smell? Snorted Naruto as he rubs his nose. His eyes widen as he turns the corner. While normally he would see the pineapple Nara laying down staring into the sky with his eyes closed, but while Naruto saw Shikamaru on the ground, while Naruto does see Shikamaru laying down on the grass, but what he was looking at was a disturbing sight. In front of him he saw Shikamaru on the floor, but standing above him was the familiar pink net and platinum blonde. But what truly disturbed and terrified him was that the two popular girls Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka were eating him, like literally eating the organs out of his organs. Naruto's eyes opened in wide shock. This wasn't right. This was like something out of a horror movie or High School of the Dead anime he watched. But this was insane. This shouldn't be happening. The blonde carefully stalked away. He had to get out of here quietly and not altering the zombie Sakura and Ino, but as soon as he was far enough he begins to run AWOC heading towards Obito class. As he makes it to the classroom he pulls the door open, causing the attention of everyone. Sasuke glares at Naruto, still not happy about the prank. Haku looks at his blonde best friend with concern as Naruto looks distressed. Obito narrows his black-colored eyes. Uzumaki finally decide to join us, said Obito with his voice laced with sarcasm. Naruto walks towards Shien and grabs her arms. Shien, we gotta leave. Shikamaru was killed, said Naruto. He then pulls her out of her seat. Gaara, Haku, Suigetsu, and Karui follow him. Shien turned towards Naruto. Naruto, what do you mean Shikamaru is dead? Asked Shien, who's confused as she knows Gaara and Kankuro is unaware of Shikamaru killing him. Naruto grits his teeth in frustration. Are serious, Naruto? Is this some type of joke? Questioned Karui, glaring at Naruto. Naruto narrows his eyes at Karui. I may be a prankster, but this isn't something I joke about, Karui. I know this sounds crazy, but I saw Shikamaru being eaten alive, said Naruto. Flashback over. Shien gains a saddened smile. She missed all her friends. She missed seeing the cheerful Jenny, the weapon otaku Tenten, and her best friend Tamari. She missed those time when the two would go to the mall. It was all because of Tamari she meet all of them, especially Naruto. He was so kind back then. It was made her fall for him. Back then, before we became on low food chain, was so much easy. The only thing we had to worry about test and the bullies like Sasuke, Kiba, and Neji. But after the world had literally became hell on earth, we were forced to grow up, especially Naruto. He took control of the group we built. We forced to hunt, kill. He even learned to make trap. We had to struggle, and were forced to grow, said a saddened Shien. Andrea looks at the young Japanese women with sadness. You too watched your family and friends die, haven't you? Asked the blonde-haired woman. Shien nods her head. Sometimes hear her mother Miroku screams of pain as she was devoured by those mindless monsters. Lori turns towards the young mother. And I take it your husband became colder and colder, stated Shien. It was clear, well, at least to her, the once kind-hearted boy grew up to become cold. She honestly didn't understand how this young blonde, after he basically threatened to use them as bait. Shien just shrugged her shoulder. Naruto became cold because the things we were forced to go. He was the leader of our group, so he had to take more responsibly, but also was forced to kill within a month after the outbreak, said Shien as they continued to walk towards the vegetation. She glances at Sophia and Carl, who are staring at her with their full attention. Carol shot Shien a suspicious look. Kill what, a walker? Asked Carol. The woman couldn't see why the young adult blonde male would feel bad killing a walker. The only way she could see the young Japanese male feeling bad about killing a walker would be if the undead was once one of his friends. Then she could see why he would feel bad. Shien shook her head negatively at the eldest female within Rick's group. No, of course not. During the day the zombie invasion happened, we had killed quite a few. Naruto had to kill someone who was threatening our group. Naruto knew this man was dangerous. He also knew if the man stayed alive he would most likely follow them or keep terrorizing innocent. Naruto saw him as a threat, so he took it upon himself to kill him, but of course this was hard on Naruto because it was the first human he had to kill, said Shien with a faraway look. Carol frowns at this due to her believing him to be a cold-hearted monster while he is cold in nature. She then gained a curious expression. Who was this person who he killed? Questioned Carol. Shien rubs the back of her neck. It might be hard to believe, but the first person he killed was a classmate of ours, said Shien. Was it that Sasuke guy? Asked Carl, who's staring at the pale blonde woman. No, it wasn't Sasuke. It was actually Kiba Inuzuka. Naruto killed the guy. Was always jealous of Naruto, mostly because he was dating me, and a lot of females found Naruto attractive while the girls found Kiba being a pest. said Shinobi. Wow, he sounded like a real jerk, said Lori with disgust. Shion nods her head. She then smiles as they arrived where all the vegetables and fruits are. And here we are. This I am Naruto's vegetable and fruit farm, said Shion with a bright smile as she looks clover, hibiscus, cornflower, calendula, carrots, cabbages, spinach, cucumbers, green beans, celery, apples, peaches, plums, blueberries, lemons, potatoes, tomatoes, pumpkins, iceberg lettuce, garlic, oranges, melons and sweet corn. The females and children look amazed at the various of plants and fruits. They honestly didn't believe they wouldn't see so much vegetation and fruit like this, but here they are seeing various of vegetables and fruit. They once thought they would ever so much vegetation ever again. Carol turns towards Shion with a look of bewilderment and of pure shock. How did you do all this? Stuttered a wide-eyed Carol. Andrea could only stare in shock as if she was looking at the Garden of Eden or one of the wonders of the world. This is amazing, exclaimed Andrea with her blue-colored eyes open with amazement and wonder. I don't believe it. Where do you guys get the water? Asked Lori with a look of amazement and wonder as she stares at the healthy plants and fruit. Shion smiles brightly at Lori. You hear that? Asked Shion. Lori, Andrea, Carol, Carl, and Sophia begin to listen and they hear the sound of water splashing against rocks. Sophia tilts her head to the side in confusion. Is that water? Asked Sophia. Shion smiles brightly at the small child. She then goes down to her eye level and points upwards. Just up there is a small stream. That's where Naruto and I get the water to water the plants, fruit. We also use it as drinking water for the animals. Now how about we water these plants and fruit? Would you like that? Asked Shion. Sophia gains a childlike grin and nods her head. Shion points her find to a circular rock formation. Sophia walks over to it and sees plant waterers. She grabs one. Everyone else grabs one as well. They then begin to walk up the small hill. And just like Shion said, there's a stream that most likely leads to a lake. Everyone then fill their waterer and travel back down the small. They then press to water the plants and fruit. As Carol waters the medium-sized peach tree, she glances back at Shion with a nervous expression. So what are we supposed to feed the chickens, horses, and pig? Questioned Carol, who doesn't really know what they eat. Shion lets out a small chuckle, causing, as you might know, pigs will eat nearly anything. As for chickens, they eat less exciting foods, like vegetables, fruits, flowers and grass. They eat grains and seeds. They scratch the ground and find bugs and specks of things that we can't see. And as for horses, well, they eat grass, said Shion, giggling at the embarrassed Carol. Where do you keep the animals? You must have some type of barn or dens, right? Asked Lori as she turned her attention towards Shion. We created a metal cage for the animals. We knew there might be a chance of the zombies to break in if we created a wooden den, so we built the cage. But the cage we built is quite spacious for the animals. Now come on, pick some fruit and vegetables, ordered Shion as she picks up a basket. She fills it with cornflower, calendula, carrots, cabbages, spinach, cucumbers, green beans, celery, apples, and peaches, said Shion. She then lead the mother and children a mile north from the plants and vegetables, and just as the beautiful blonde had said, there was a huge iron cage, but they didn't accept it to be so big to house not just horses, pigs, and chickens, but there's also cows and lambs. Andrea turned towards Shion. Wait, I thought you guys didn't have lambs and cows? Questioned Andrea. Well, we just the two animals, but the animals are hungry, so let's feed them, said Shion. They then begin to start feeding the animals. They then fill their water bowl. Carl wipes the sweat from his forehead. He then turns towards the female. You guys have to do this all the time? Asked Carl. Shion nods her head. Actually, we have to do this nearly every day. But with you guys here doing all these chores makes it easy, said Shion with a smile of gratitude. Sophia smiles brightly at her mother, who's literally bouncing on her feet. Carol smiles down at her daughter. What is it, Sophia? Asked Carol. Sophia gives Carol a toothy grin. I pet the horse, exclaimed the cheerful child, thus causing everyone to giggle at the sit. The women were happy they get to have these moments. The moments of peace, the moments where they safe, the moments where there was no screams of fear or running for their lives. With T-Dog, Glenn, and Dark Glenn lets out a tiresome sign, which isn't surprisingly, since he is tired from walking. He was hoping they'll be able to rest, but that wasn't the case with Naruto, who literally is making them work right after they got here. He understood this was his home, but the man literally put them to work. Glenn's shoulders then begin to slump. "He didn't even give us anything to drink," groaned Glenn as he runs his hand through his black hair. T-Dog groans in irritation with his shoulders slumped. "He didn't even give us any weapons. And there might be walkers around," complained the large African-American man. Glenn agreed with T-Dog. He felt like the young Japanese man was hoping they get killed and eaten by the undead who literally roams around looking for something new to eat. But they all knew Naruto never wanted him here in the first place. All they knew, the blonde-haired male could have had numerous of traps. "Man, this sucks. No weapons and wandering around the forest," complained Glenn, who had left like they've been walking around nearly an hour, but they've only been walking for about 38 minutes, but it still felt long. The old man wipes the sweat from his forehead and released a pant of exhaustion. Unlike both T-Dog and Glenn, who are young, Dale is very old, and walking so far isn't easy on his body, but he knows he'll have to put it up with it. It had seemed like Naruto was right. If they wanted to eat, they'll have to work at pant least. "We're almost pant there, but I'm way too old for this long walking distance," said Dale as he begins to breathe heavily due to the long walk. Since he was not made for all this walking, he sometimes envy others due to they are so young and able to actually walk farther than him. T-Dog then narrows his eyes in the distance as he sees various of creatures in the forest like deer, goat, and a small bobcat, but while sees the animals and beautiful large trees taking back, but what truly caught the attention of the big black person was a large oak-made shed. T-Dog smiles brightly at seeing the shed. "Glenn, Dale, I see it. I thought we'll never get here," exclaimed T-Dog, who's sweating very heavily. Dale smiles brightly as if he just won a prize. Glenn grins happily. He then turns to T-Dog. "Then what are we waiting for?" roared an energetic Glenn with an unknown source of energy. They rush to the sea giant shed, but once they open they expect to see various of gun, but there's only about 4 guns in the shed, such as M17 Bushmaster, Mossberg 500, L115A3, and AR-15. They also see a large wagon. Glenn raised an eyebrow at the amount of weapons. They'd believed there would at least be over a dozen. Dale released a sigh as he rubs the back of his head. "Well, there's nothing we can do about it," stated Dale as he grabs the Mossberg 500. T-Dog then grabs the M17 Bushmaster while Glenn grabs the AR-15. "We got a job to do, boys," said Dale as he clocks his gun. T-Dog then gains a large smile as he realized he finally gets to eat meat. "I wonder how long has it been since he had ate actual meat." "Right, let's do it," said T-Dog as he steps out of the oak-made shed. He sees a mobcat. He points his gun at the animal. He takes the shot and watches the bullet literally soar through the feline's ribcage, killing it. T-Dog quickly runs towards the animal, but he comes to a halt as a large black wolf snarling at the black man, showing its sharp, deadly fangs. Glenn quickly aims his AR-15 at the canine. He fires at the creature, but instead of the bullet rocketing through skull of the canine, the bullet had shot through the predator's ear. The wolf quickly turned its head towards Glenn and Dale. The wolf then charges at the two. T-Dog, Dale, and Glenn begin firing at the animal. The wolf then falls dead with it bleeding out to death. T-Dog then drags the body of the wolf and bobcat to the wagon. "Glenn, come and help me," asked T-Dog. "Sure," said Glenn. He walks over to T-Dog and helps him lift the dead canine on the wagon. The two then hears a gunshot go off. They turned and see a dead lamb. But the three stop in place, not because they see a walker, but because they see an adult grizzly bear, but they wish it was a walker. The three waste no time and begin to shot at the creature. The bears roars in anger and literally charges at Dale him over, and had the old man pin. T-Dog and Glenn begin to shot the bear with no mercy. The bear didn't even get any chance to actually sink its teeth in Dale. Seeing the bear fall with blood leaking from its head as the two pull the dead bear off of Dale, they notice Dale has a slash mark over his shoulder. Glenn wraps his shoulder around Dale. "Are you all right?" asked a worried Glenn. Dale groans in pain as he glances at Glenn. "Don't worry about me. I'll be fine, just get this thing on the wagon," said Dale with a pain expression. Glenn released his grasp from Dale. He and T-Dog then struggled to lift the giant creature to put it on the wagon. It took them around 15 minutes to put the large animal on the large wagon. Glenn then wipes away the sweat rolling down his face. T-Dog grins at Glenn. "Okay, let's head back," said T-Dog. "Right. The faster we get there, the faster we can get Dale fixed up," said Glenn with a smile. With Naruto, Rick, Daryl, and Shane. If there's one thing Naruto was feeling at this moment was pure annoyance, mostly due to him having to allow these people to stay at his home. While he understand having these people around would help with the chores, but did he want these people around? Hell no, he didn't trust people at all, and why should he? These people are nothing more than strangers, an unknown factor, an equation that was none counted for. He knew he was outnumbered but not outgunned thanks to his M1A SOCOM E. Draco Zostava M85, his sword and Beretta 92 FS. He can easily kill these three, plus it also comes in handy that his armor is bulletproof. He honestly would rather these people to their death. He actually didn't care these people died. Naruto then glances at Rick and Shane, who are talking among themselves, talking about how peaceful this place seems like. These people are nothing but annoyance, a true nuisance. If any of these people threatened Shien or Tsukihime, they're dead. And if they even laid one hand on my daughter, I swear I'll slaughter them just like the pathetic trash there. None of them would be spared, even the women and the two brats won't be spared. If needed, I'll kill them all. It doesn't matter if I have to kill those two kids. I'll do anything to protect my family, even if I have to soak my hands in the blood of the innocent. Thought Naruto darkly as he carefully glances at three cautiously. Some might see this as borderline paranoid, but not Naruto, unlike Rick's group, who's still green behind the ears. But with Naruto and Shien, they have witnessed the darker side of humanity, which had caused Naruto to be suspicious of any humans. After all, it has always been his job to look after his family. Even before the birth of Tsukihime, it was his job to protect Shien, but of course he also had to protect everyone. He misses his friends, especially his parents. He knows they're in a better place and looking after him and his beautiful daughter. Naruto then stares at a raccoon and watches as it eats berries. Gaara, whether you're in heaven or hell, please continue to look after my angel, thought Naruto. Naruto reaches his arm out and tosses Shane to the side, making the man land on his ass. The black-haired former cop glares at the whiskered blonde man. What the hell? Snarled Shane, glaring daggers at Naruto. Naruto doesn't even turn towards Shane. There was a landmine there, said Naruto as he kneels on his knee. He then grabs the landmine and sees the bomb isn't glowing. He then clicks his tongue in annoyance. Damn it, it stopped working, growled Naruto. He then grabs a brown bag that's wrapped around his shoulder. Rick then helps Shane up to his feet. He turns towards Naruto. Are these traps not working? Asked Rick as he wonders if all these traps stopped working. Naruto shook his head. He sees the raccoon starts to walk around, only for a sharp needle to be launched from the ground and literally ripping the head from the garbage-eating animal. No, not all of them. But I'm not surprised these traps stopped working, since half of these traps have been here for at least 2 months, but it seems like not all of them stopped working. You redneck, watch your step, said Naruto, not even glancing at Daryl. The crossbow-wielding redneck turned at Naruto. The name's Daryl, and why not? Asked Daryl in confusion. Rick looks at shock. Daryl, look down, said Rick, and Daryl looks down. His eyes stare in shock as he sees a wire. Rick turns towards Naruto. Naruto, what's this trap do? Asked a worried Rick. Naruto picks a small defective iron trap that cuts off a person's foot. His ocean blue orbs glance towards the wire. Don't touch it, Jim Bob, that wire is made out of iron. That wire will cut your feet off, leaving you bleeding out and helpless to the wondering undead, but also for the bears, wolves, coyotes, and the lion around here, said Naruto in a stoic tone. Rick's shot open with pure shock. Wait. What? Bears, wolves, coyotes, and lion? Exclaimed Rick. Naruto nods his head. Yes, while the bears, wolves, coyotes, and lion don't bother me. Mostly because the last time one of them tried I'd kill them with ease, but the lion is nothing more than a cub, and wolves around here are mostly lone wolves. They're smart enough not to mess with me, but for your 3 friends they don't have such luck, said Naruto with a half grin. Shane narrows his eyes at Naruto. You set us up, growled Shane. No, I didn't set up. I just didn't see why I should tell you. After all, if one of your friends were eaten, there would be less of you to worry about. Besides, if I wanted you dead, I would have done it already, said Naruto as he twirls a dart between his fingers. You're only alive because Shien wishes to have you around, said Naruto. He throws the dart towards Shane, but instead of it nailing him in the face, it pierced right through the skull of a snake, killing it. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.